Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is John Fairbanks, and this is the first episode of Franchisee Radio. We're going to talk a little bit about the origin story of kind of how we ended up here. And by we, I mean myself and my wife and the company that we started. It's called It's Possible Virtual Solutions. So how we started off that company and how we ended up kind of landing here of starting this idea, which is Franchisee Radio. So here comes the intro. I'll tell you a little bit more about what Franchisee Radio is all about, and then we'll get into how this all got started.
Our clients are busy in the grind, doing what they do best, but they never have the time to come up for air and see what anyone else is doing. We get to interact with multiple successful businesses from all walks of life, having success doing what they do every day. How do these businesses do it? How did they start? What hurdles do they jump through on a daily basis to be successful? What is it that sets them apart from their competition? This podcast is here to give you the answer. Join me and follow along as we learn, apply, and share the best strategies that the top small business owners, franchise owners, and their franchisees have used to grow their businesses. My name is John Fairbanks, and welcome to Franchisee Radio.
So there we were. I was working. So my background is in education. So I was a principal of a school. Had a couple different side hustles going on. Started to kind of get that itch, especially when it comes from education. You're not exactly making a whole lot of money, and so we needed to be able to figure out a way to be able to make ends meet. My wife and I, we have three little monsters, so 3 little boys, and they're hungry all the time. And so in order to make sure that they continue to eat, we knew that we were going to have to continue to be able to kind of come up with different jobs and different ideas to be able to kind of make everything work. And so the one thing was that we had this desire to where it was, we were starting to get really sick and tired of a boss, or the man was telling us where we had to be and when we had to be there. The reality is that we knew we wanted to do something with our time. Our time was really dedicated towards wanting to be with our kids and wanting to be with each other and being able to kind of be out in the community. But we knew that because of my 9 to 5, my wife was a stay-at-home mom and still is as we were working with the business. But we knew that we wanted to be able to kind of hold our time in our own hands and no longer have to rely on someone else to be able to tell us when we were able to use our time, and kind of ultimately we wanted to be able to have more control, right? And so the issue, of course, is that you have this job, and you have this job that pays your bills, and you can't just leave because you need to have something in place. You can't just all of a sudden just be like, we're gone, because those bills are going to keep coming. You have to pay the mortgage, and then also in the back of your mind, you're thinking, I went to school for this job. Like, if I all of a sudden just leave, like, I have student debt for this. So if I have student debt and I went to school for this, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing for the rest of my life, right? These are all those thoughts that are going through your mind of all the reasons why I can't leave my job. I can't do this. But over time, as we were doing different, having different opportunities, one of the things that we got into ended up having me follow a mentor of mine, and I followed him for a year. So I everything they put on social media, they did YouTube videos, whatever it was, I was commenting and I was interacting with every single post that they put out there. It was a healthy, productive level of stalking. Minus the weird, well, not super weird, right? Anyway, so my mentor, him and his company, right? They're now doing speaking engagements, and so they're traveling all over the world, and they never come. So we were in Florida at the time, and now we're in Virginia. So you can see some of the trees starting to turn colors, right? Time of year. So anyway, so we were in Florida at the time, and they just my mentor, they were never coming. They were never going to come to Florida, and then we find out. A year from right now, or a year from then, that they were going to be in Florida. And so my wife, I'm like, we've got to go. She's got, you've got to go. You've got to be able to go see them. And so So we put the money down, right, to go. Money that we didn't necessarily have right then, but it's a live event. So if you've ever had the opportunity to be able to go and participate in a live event, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you haven't had the opportunity to go and like see speakers or see people that you have watched and be able to kind of feel their presence in the same room, it's completely and totally like life changing being with them. So anyway, so we fast forward a year, right? All sorts of things happen. We were involved with a business that was a gym that ends up having problems and is going to have to go out of business. And we have all these. It's all while we're still being the principal of a school and doing the things that we're already doing. And I remember it didn't make sense anymore. Where it was like it doesn't make sense to go. We don't have the money now to be able to justify to go. And my wife's like, you've got to go. You've waited a year past when you wanted to go then. You've waited a year, and she's like, you've got to go. I'll go with you. We'll get, our parents can watch the kids, and we'll go. We'll make a weekend of it. We'll go down. And so she was unbelievably supportive, and so we get to go down. And so I'm sitting in the room with a bunch of other people, but finally get to hear kind of my mentor, right? Hear him speak, and he's talking about all these things, and it's just like my mind is getting blown. Like every 5 minutes there's another thing. And so I'm just thinking, and so my background, right, is in education. And so so it's very natural for me to be able to build out systems, take content for 52 weeks, right, the course of a year, or 180 days, course of a school year, and then break it out into weeks and days and lessons and all that. So that comes very natural. And I remember I'm sitting and I'm listening to all this awesome content. I'm like, man, he's got to be able to come up with a way of getting all this content out to the world. Because the reality is I was a little obsessed, right? So I was listening to podcasts and watching YouTube videos and putting things all together. But I don't know if the average, that wasn't what everybody else was doing. And so for me, I'm like, well, there would be a way of just taking this content and then packaging it to make it easier for people to be able to read and understand and kind of get introduced to this to the mentor, right? To the people that I was following. And so there's those breaks, right? So as they speak for a little bit, and everybody gets up and moves around a little bit, and then there's a break. And so there's that 5-minute break or whatever it was. And so I walked up and I introduced myself, and just said, I'm so, and they're like, oh, well, we know who you are because you've been following us all over the place. And I'm like, have you ever thought about doing this? Have you ever thought about, packaging all of your, all this content and putting it out there for people to hear and be able to access it? And he just looks at me and goes, well, you're hired. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah. He goes, that's a great idea. You're hired. Let's and so essentially it turns into then moving to where the very next day it's my wife and I meeting in downtown Miami to be able to then speak with him further and kind of iron out the details. But essentially this was a new opportunity, and this was a new opportunity of kind of taking content and then being able to package it and being able to make sure it's accessible for the masses. And so we're so excited. And so we get back. So back to the regular job, back to the 9 to 5. But now we know in the back of our mind this is something we can be working on. And so fast forward a little bit, and we're doing lots of work, and we're building out this system, and it's not right. So we're part of the group, group calls and team calls, and kind of starting to assist my mentor and his company, and we're getting paid. Those one of those things in the back of your mind. You kind of start with somebody new. You're like, well, this sounds really cool, but like we're doing a lot of work, but I don't know if we're gonna get paid. Like it actually pays. Like we actually get paid on time. And so kind of all those doubts start going away. But it comes to be obvious that what we originally got hired to come on and help do and work with them on, the timing wasn't right. And man, it was super deflating because you're just like, what does that mean? Does that mean that we're on the outs? Does that mean we're not like part of the cool kids club anymore. But there was something that was happening over the course. So this happened several months down the road, of a few months, right? But one thing that happened during that time was that a question we get asked every once in a while, it would be like, does someone know how to do X? And no one's raising their hand to make it obvious. And I'm like, well, I'll figure it out. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, we'll figure it out. What do you need to know by? Tuesday? And today is Monday. Yeah, that'll be fine. We'll figure that out. We can do that. And so I realized that if we did that enough times, we made more money. So that was good. That was one. But then all of a sudden your value started going up. And so what we realized was, by the time the original thing was that we had got hired to help do, once we kind of heard, it's like, now's not the time, we still had like 3-4 other things that we were now being hired to do, that we could help do. And so all of a sudden it became, we don't want to do, hey, does anybody want to answer all these emails? Like, we're really sick and tired of answering all these emails. Does anybody else want to do this? Does anybody else want to manage this piece? Or does anybody else want to do this? And all of a sudden, next thing we know, it just was, yep, absolutely, that's us. So yeah, we'll do that. We can do that. We can do that. And then it turned into my wife and I now doing it together and being able to help do those things together. And what initially could have been something really terrible, we ended up finding out that we were now doing a lot of work for now this client. So not just now a mentor or people that have become our friends, but now we kind of have this client where we're doing a lot of different things for, really as a virtual assistant, or kind of this admin that helps them do the different things that they have going on. And the best part is they don't even live in the same country as us any longer. They are over in Europe and we're over here in the United States. And so we just start helping doing all those different things. And so that's where we decided, wouldn't it be cool if this was what we did full time? What if we were able to help businesses and this was something that we could do for them all the time? And so we started talking about this, and then we started picking up clients here and clients there, and we realized that we had all these clients that we were working with, and they all had similar issues. So we not only had small business owners that we were helping with, or people that were local businesses, but also we had a couple franchisees that were involved, and it didn't matter what they did. They all had kind of similar issues and areas that we would be able to help them with, and it kind of started to become those similar things that allowed us to be able to be successful, kind of plugging ourselves into their system and kind of seeing what they were successful at. So it was, those same issues, whether it was being able to get integrated into a new community, whether they were dealing with handling their social media, whether they were handling cash flow issues and being able to increase cash flow, or being able to deal with new employees and new functioning and being able to handle kind of bringing new people on and communication back and forth and email marketing, all these different things. And that's where the conversation went to, where we thought they are really good at doing what they're doing, but because they're in the grind, they just don't know, they don't have time to be able to talk to other business owners or other franchisees that are out there to be able to kind of get those best practices, to see the things that are working, and we're seeing them every single day. And it's been really cool to be able to see what works, what doesn't work, and seeing it from all these different kind of walks of life, these different niches. And that's where I had the idea, where it's, let's get a platform together and be able to have these people share their stories, their successes, and kind of what makes them make the jump. Right? What got us to make the jump to be able to do what we're doing is to be able to kind of be the masters of our own time, and being able to take something that we were passionate about, which was helping other people that were passionate, be able to be more efficient and be able to cut costs here and there, and be able, because you either got time, you got talent, or you got money. And so we didn't necessarily have money. And so I'll keep going on and on. So the reality is we're excited to be able to start in this podcast. We're looking forward to being able to bring in some interviews. We're going to be talking to small business owners, franchisees from successful franchises, as well as those franchise owners, and be able to kind of hear about their success stories, how they got started, the things that they're doing each and every day to be able to make them successful, and how they got the opportunity to take and make that jump, because that was the biggest piece. As we talk to those local business owners that have people that come and approach them, like, why don't you franchise out? Why don't you do this? Or why don't you do that? You know, everybody's got a good idea. The reality is they ain't got time for ideas. You are grinding it out. People are working hard, just doing their day to day. And the reality is you don't know where to start. And so that's the idea that we're going to have here, is be able to share those stories, to be able to make you successful, and be able to share those kind of with the world of all those local business owners and other franchises. You can be able to start implementing those strategies to make work what's out there. So looking forward. We'll see you guys on the next episode. We'll be able to talk about kind of different things that we've started to be able to implement with our company to be able to start being successful. And then we'll be looking forward to those interviews in the coming future. If you haven't already, go ahead and click subscribe. This is our brand new channel that we'll be uploading all of our videos to. We also have our podcast that will be going. So it's Franchisee Radio. That's the name of our channel on YouTube, so you can go and subscribe there. And then you also can find our podcast episode kind of wherever other fine podcast episodes can be found. We're going to go through an app called Anchor. So Anchor is where it's going to hold our podcast. Makes it pretty easy. Do it kind of all one quick click, easy, and then they help spread that out to other different podcast platforms. So you'll have us there. And then we'll also have our website at franchiseeradio.com. So that's franchiseeradio.com. You can go, you can find this episode for our origin story, learn more about us, learn about myself, and be able to get the transcript. So we're going to be able to have that. So we'll kind of have that for each and every episode, be able to have those items for your eyeballs, for your earballs, and then we'll also be able to read for those of you that are not big on only listening, but you want to be able to read it too. So, all right, we'll see you guys later.